안녕! Welcome back to 동그라미's Korean class. Today we're going to learn about counters in Korean. Count words or counters is a unique thing in Korean language. It's also called quantifier. And for different nouns, we use different counters. Basically, a counter is a marker that you put after numbers when you're trying to show the amount of a certain thing. Let's look at 10 most commonly used counters in Korean and use them in examples. Let's go! The first count word is 개. 개. It's used for general items like ice cream, pencil, eraser, and anything else. So if you're unsure about which counter to use, just use 개, and a lot of the times it will make sense. For example, let's say the sentence, please give me 3 pencils. We would say 연필 3개 주세요. Here you see we put 개 after the number 세. 3개. And because we're talking about pencils, a general object, we use 개 for the counter. The second counter that we use a lot is for people. 명. 명. However, for people, we have 2 different counters depending on the type of speech. So for casual type, we would use 명. For example, if you want to say the sentence, there are 4 people in my family. We would say 우리 가족은 4명이에요. 우리 가족은 4명이에요. Here, if you directly translate the sentence, it actually becomes our family is 4 people. So instead of the word 사람 for people, if you say 명, it's enough. People would just understand that we're talking about number of people. This counter word concept is a unique thing in specific countries like Korea. So for those of you whose language does not have this concept counter word, it's not very familiar and it's a bit weird to apply this concept. In order to get used to it, it's just practice that you need. So we'll go on with the next word and more practice sentences. So, for polite form of people, we say 분 for the counter word. 분. For example, in a restaurant, people often ask, how many people are you? Then you will say 몇 분이세요? 몇 분이세요? So here, 분 was added after how many, which is another question word that shows numbers. 몇 분이세요? The next one is for animals. We use 마리. 마리. For example, if you want to say there are 2 dogs here, then we say 여기에 강아지 2마리 있어요. 여기에 강아지 2마리 있어요. Another different thing from English is that you can see that we're talking about numbers after the noun. So in English, we said 2 dogs, but in Korean, we would say 강아지 2마리. So the order is dog 2. 강아지 2마리. Let's practice some more. Counter for age is 살. 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 For example, if you want to say, how old are you? In other words, what age are you? We would say 몇 살이세요? 몇 살이세요? To answer this, if you want to say I'm 10 years old, we say 저는 10살이에요. 저는 10살이에요. Yes, I know it's a bit complicated concept, but we'll just have to get used to it with practice. Another counter word is for books. We say 권. 권. For example, 오늘 책 4권을 읽었어요. Again, there's the verb 책, then the number 4, and the counter 권. The next counter is for pages. 장. 장. For example, the homework is 2 pages. 숙제는 2장이에요. 숙제는 2장이에요. 숙제는 2장이에요. Oh, and just in case, for those of you who find these words unfamiliar, I recommend you to check out my playlist called 10 Korean Words Per Day. It will be much easier once you memorize all the words there. Now back to the counters. So, another counter that's similar to 장 just now is 잔. 잔 is counter used for cups. For example, the sentence, please give me a cup of water. It's 물 한 잔 주세요. 물 한 잔 주세요. 물 한 잔 주세요. The next counter is for bottles. 병. 병. For example, please give me a bottle of beer. 맥주 한 병 주세요. 맥주 한 병 주세요. These sentences are very useful when you visit a Korean restaurant. 맥주 한 병 주세요. The last one for today is the counter for counting times. 번. 번. Like a bread bun. Like 번. The sentence, how many times have you been there? We would say, 너 거기 몇 번 가봤어? 너 거기 몇 번 가봤어? Let's try another example with 번. The sentence, I watched this music video 10 times. We can say, 나 이 뮤직비디오 10번 봤어. 나 이 뮤직비디오 10번 봤어. Alright, so today we covered 10 most frequently used count words in Korean. Well done for those of you who watched the whole video, because I know it's a very complicated concept and it gets boring when things get complicated. But these counter words is a must-know thing if you want to speak in Korean. So congrats, you've made another big step towards becoming fluent in Korean. Keep up the learning and see you next time. 안녕!